are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 166 of the College Loop Podcast. I am Dylan Larck, at your boy on Twitter/X. I keep saying that X part, Twitter. I'm here joined by Mr. Harrison Tarr. Tar, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm great. Just got to witness Auburn absolutely thump South Carolina in the biggest biggest margin of victory over a top 25 team in program history. That's a little bit of a mouthful. But 40-point ass whooping. That's the only way you can describe that one. So, feeling very encouraged. I'm sure a lot of Auburn fans are in a lot better headspace now than they were following Saturday, their whatever that was. That was it was certainly an encouraging portion. Softball winds up coming back and winning. Things feel fun again for a little bit, and I know Auburn fans are in a good headspace because they hadn't felt some good news since last Friday when gymnastics manhandled and took down Alabama. I know, chef's kiss. It's always a good time to break out a reverse rammer jammer. But we got a lot of news to cover today, Dylan. Really full rundown, extremely full rundown, and got a couple of UK matchups, both on the men's side and the women's side, which I feel like doesn't happen a ton. It's happened one other time this year, LSU, that I can think of off the top of the head.
But LSU, wasn't Ole Miss?
Yeah, maybe an Ole Miss. I feel like it just doesn't happen all the time, though. So it's always kind of like odd and off-putting, and you're like, "What are we talking about the same thing?" But yeah, got a couple of UK matchups to preview. Obviously, softball back in action, baseball returning to the Diamond on Friday, and we've got our rotation announced officially as of today or as of yesterday. Yesterday's is coming out, so we'll break that down. Spoiler alert: I'm going to feel really good about that. I'm going to boog a little bit because I'm really happy with the way that things shook out. I think we'll see, but we'll start with football and we'll work our way through. Spring practice around the corner. Dylan, keys are yours.
Yeah, spring practice right around the corner. I think about a week and a half away from your favorite Auburn football team coming back to the Plains. And last time we talked about some key things that I wanted to see from this Auburn Tigers team in this spring practice cycle. And now we're going to talk about the three players / rooms that we think have the most to prove ahead of spring practice.
Yeah, and there's a lot of room for guys to make big impacts in different ways, and they can serve not only their team but themselves beneficially throughout spring practice. I am not overly excited that we're talking about football in February, but here we are. It's part of the game, and I know spring practice is around the corner, and there's a couple of guys that are on my radar, Dylan, and there's obviously going to be one overlap that we'll save for the very end. There's no need to act like that's a spoiler, but I don't have to tell you guys out loud for y'all to know who that's going to be. I'm going to start with Kyan Lee. He's going to be a true sophomore this year in that DB room that's been depleted, thankfully depleted by the NFL draft in large. And it speaks to the amount of talent that's come through that room. And I know you're going to kind of chime in on the same note here in just a moment. But I selected Kyan Lee here because this is a guy with a lot of talent, a young man that we have been really high on since he flipped from Ohio State to Auburn just a year ago. It does not feel like it's been that long, Dylan, to be transparent. But here we are, and he's staring down significant snaps. I mean, starter level snaps. And in his true sophomore season, I think the kid's got all the talent in the world. He had some moments he looked like a freshman, but shake those off, get back in the film room in the offseason, but specifically now, be able to put on pads and actually get to work on the craft. This is going to be an opportunity for Kyan Lee to set himself up for a starting role come fall of 2024, or fall of this year rather. And that room's going to need to gel quickly. It's going to be a not completely different, but largely different looking group that Auburn's kind of hung its hat on the past long time. I don't even know. I've almost said a couple of years, but like for an extensive period of time, right? I mean, over the greater part of the last decade, Auburn's been solid in the secondary, and it's turning its attention now to Kyan Lee. And obviously I'm leaving out a couple of young men who are going to be right there beside him fighting for starting positions, but it's very important for him to step up and show that he's put on the weight, that he's not put on the weight, but sculpted his physique to tailor to what an SEC DB needs to look like, that his skill set's been tailored to what an SEC DB needs to look like, and that he can take that experience from 2023 and put it into 2024 and prep to try to lock down some of the most talented receivers in the country. I mean, the SEC is very much loaded at the skills position in general, but specifically at the wideout position. You don't have to look that far away from LSU just a year ago. and you're going to have that kind of talent throughout the season, especially when you're adding in a new opponent in Oklahoma, and you've got some of your, I guess, perennial foes are not going anywhere. Georgia and Alabama are right there, and we are certainly eager to see what he can do. So I think there's a lot of room for Kane Lee.
Yeah, and I talk about the SEC being a tough match every week of the conference schedule. I did hear that they're planning on by 2026 going to the nine conference games.
Yeah, I heard that earlier today too.
Does mean that if Georgia wasn't already named as a permanent rival, they will be.
They will be, and they should be. I mean, protect that rivalry.
Yeah, I know that Auburn does not have the best luck against Georgia, but I am not one to bow out of Georgia's way.
No, don't shy away from a rivalry that's that rich in tradition. I mean, it is literally the Deep South's oldest rivalry. That rich in tradition, you don't shy away from it.
And bring on LSU too. I don't want to get rid of that rivalry either.
There's always in large 90% of those games, 95% of those games are just goofy, and they're so fun to watch. So yeah, I will miss LSU on the schedule this year, but yes.
All right, and I'll take your Kane Lee, and I'll also talk about Keontae Scott as a guy I'm looking at. Not because I think that he's going to play bad or digress at all throughout the season. I actually think that Keontae Scott's going to be one of the better parts of this team. It's more or less the fact that he is changing positions from that star to the outside corner. He'll be the starting corner for Auburn football in 2024 under this new defensive regime. Wesley McGriff is still there. Crime Dog's still there. But the rest of the staff is completely altered. Aldridge has moved to defensive ends coach as well. So you're going to have a new look for this defense, and Keontae Scott's going to be an outlier, or not an outlier, but going to be outside. And it's a position we saw him play a little bit in against Maryland, and he didn't play terrible. He played pretty well in coverage, and kind of just how that game went. That game just nothing went in Auburn's favor, and I hate that I'm talking about that horrendously bad, horrible game. That the only bright side of it was Auburn fans got to celebrate a little bit of time in Nashville. But yeah, I'm looking at Keontae Scott because it's a guy that we know what Keontae can do. He's a guy who plays very well in the positions that he gets put in. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he performs as the starting corner for the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I agree completely. And a young man who really wants to avenge people's lasting memories of him in terms of just not being where he needs to be at the right time. That's kind of as far as we need to be and go into that. But also a guy that's familiar with the program, that stayed locked into this program, and can be a leader in that locker room as an intangible. I'm going to take it from an individual perspective, jump over to position group before we go back to an individual. There's a little bit of a theme here that you and I have kind of on the fly come up with, and I kind of like the direction we're headed. I'm going to look at this wide receiver room as an entity, if you will, and specifically the newcomers, Dylan, because this is a reconstructed wide receiver room from its very core. You go out and you grab Cam Coleman, you get Bryce Kane, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, and Robert Lewis, obviously the transfer from Georgia State.
Dylan Gentry.
And Dylan Gentry, I'm sorry.
And Sam Jackson the fifth.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. I appreciate you not gaslighting, but just talking over me. I appreciate it. Very kind of you. Anyways, I'm looking at this group because there is a lot riding on this receiving core to be successful. And I'm going to be honest, right, wrong, or indifferent. There's a lot riding on them to be an instant impact. Whether or not that's fair, probably not. I'm just being honest. But the harsh reality of the world is Auburn fans want to see immediate improvement. And this wide receiver core, and I almost said Bruce Pearl, who is fully the head basketball coach at Auburn, that Hugh Freeze and company have gone out and grabbed and kind of put all their eggs in that basket. It's imperative that they pan out and that there's a tangible difference, that if you can pinpoint what's going on wrong in your passing game, it better be on your quarterback, because your receiving core's got to be able to bring down footballs this year and make you not one-dimensional. That was a problem Auburn ran into a lot last year. And honestly, has been the common theme since the departure of Bo Nix. Sorry, cry about it, folks. It's true. And it's time for Auburn to be able to be more than one-dimensional. And I mean, Cam Coleman specifically, that young man's got to live up to his hype. But once again, right, wrong, or indifferent, but he's got to be the product that was advertised, because you need that guy, and you need a go-to guy that you can trust. And obviously, that's going to fall on your returners. Hollywood's got to have a big year, and you can go down that list, right, Dylan? And you're receiving, your H-backs are not excluded in terms of dump off passes, but mostly this receiving core in terms of downfield plays, it's imperative. So I'm looking at that room entirely. Like, you guys got to take a big step and get adjusted to the college game and the SEC game if you're a newcomer to the conference at a very, very quick and borderline unfair level.
Yeah, and I mean Auburn brought in. I'm trying to remember all the guys that got brought in last transfer cycle. I mean, it was Shane Hooks and Jair Shorter were two guys that we were very high on going into last season, and neither one of those two made any kind of impact. I will say Jair Shorter did average 10 yards a catch, but that is because he had one catch for 10 yards.
Right.
But those guys are now gone. I think Shane Hooks trying to go to the league, and I believe Jair Shorter went to Western Kentucky or Memphis. One of those.
Is Hollywood still not decided? I digress, by the way, when I said Hollywood has have a big year. I was trying to
he's gone.
I know, I was trying to draw a comparison to like last year, and I just completely messed my verbiage up there. I thought he was in the portal. I didn't know that he was going league.
He's been playing in the Shrine Bowls.
Okay, so he is league bound. I just missed that completely. Sorry, guys, but I was trying to draw the comparison to like last year when you bring in a guy like Hollywood, and you're like, oh, this is going to be like the shining example, and it's important that he gets successful. And then I successfully put the cart before the horse. So I digress on that.
I mean, he is on like all the Shrine Bowls. The only real, I guess, players going to the league game that gets any kind of recognition is the Senior Bowl.
That's the only one I recognize. So it's
like if you're not in the Senior Bowl, you're just not getting any kind of media thrown your way at all. But I would take your position group, and I also have my own. I have the offensive line. Yeah, this is a position that's bringing in one transfer in Percy Lewis, who I think is going to be an automatic starter because he's all SEC caliber offensive tackle that'll come in and move Dylan Wade to the guard position. You bring in DeAndre Carter and Favor Edwin, and you cannot forget the slew, if I'm using that word correctly, of linemen that are already here. Jeremiah Wright is back. Connor Liu is probably the only offensive lineman I don't have question marks surrounding or don't know what he can give. But this offensive line was a position group that gave Auburn a lot of issues last season, from the holding calls on big plays to the false starts to the giving up sacks to making sure that neither quarterback felt confident in the pocket. This is a position group that needs to build the confidence that they can perform against some of the top defenses in the country, it being the SEC. You still have Georgia on your schedule. Georgia and Kirby Smart are never not going to have a top defensive unit in college football. Alabama, no matter who is coaching Alabama, they are still known for having a top defense in the country. You avoid LSU, but you got to bring the fact that Ole Miss is bringing in a ton of defensive talent as well from the transfer portal. This is not a down year for the SEC. This is going to be a tough year for the SEC, especially no divisions, 12 teams in the playoffs. Every team's battling out for whatever spots are left. You need to have an offensive line that can handle the pressure and keep your quarterbacks in their right mind. And that's not something we had last year. But going into this year, I feel a little more confident about the offensive line because I go off the same memo I've gone off every single year. I talk about Auburn's offensive line. It's kind of hard for it to be worse. And the upward trajectory this unit has been going on, the level of talent that is coming in, it's, again, hard for me to think it could be worse. Gunnar Britton is gone. He is going to the league. I think he also played one of the Shrine Bowls. He was a talented player who didn't work out. That happens in the transfer portal, but now you're bringing a guy with SEC caliber experience. So looking at this position group as a whole, I definitely think that if Hugh Freeze and this staff and this team wants to win 8+ games in 2024, it starts right there in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball.
Games are won and lost in the trenches, right, Dylan? You bring up a great point, and I don't really think I need to expand too much other than agreeing with you that the bar's low. The bar's really low. But if your whole mantra is that you're going to bring Auburn back, you got to raise that bar. So it starts up front. And I think that most of our concerns lie on the offensive side of the ball. And that's evidenced by what we were speaking about beforehand. And to kind of put a nice little bow on that, folks, I mean, I'm sorry. I really am sorry about this. But whether or not you like it, the quarterback conversation's here. And it's not going anywhere. Whether or not you're sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of talking about it. I am. Because we're beating a dead horse over something, a conversation with an incumbent quarterback that's presumptively your starter coming into 24 or 25. But a lot of people having question marks makes this a conversation, myself included, having question marks. And Dylan, we were speaking right before we went on air, and I told you I don't know how Thorne doesn't fold under pressure as the incumbent in this quarterback battle, because I don't think he's the most talented of the group. I don't know that he's the second most talented of the group. I'm not going to go too deep on this one. There's really just not a whole lot of point, but I think we can go ahead and unanimously agree that Payton Thorne's got everything to lose. He actually really doesn't have that much to gain in spring practice, if I'm being completely transparent. Yes, you can get better. You can improve your game, and that never hurts. But you've got the starting job to lose. That is the biggest and scary. As the starting quarterback, that is the scariest thing that can happen in your entire life, is that you have the opportunity to lose your job because you're not quite good enough to solidify that no one's taking it from you. No matter what Hugh Freeze is going to try to preach at you, and I'm not calling Hugh Freeze a bullshitter, but let's be honest, there's some coach speak here. No matter what Hugh Freeze tells us about, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's Payton, maybe it's not Payton, whatever, that job is open. The door is always open. Just like any position group, you can lose your starting job, but the quarterback, when you've got this much pressure to be successful, and once again, right, wrong, or indifferent, the expectations are lofty in year two. If you got that much pressure to be successful, you got to make sure you have the right guy there in the most important position on the field. That's where I'm going to leave it, Dylan. Payton Thorne's got everything to lose and not really that much to gain.
Yeah, because you're going in the spring, and again, he's our unanimous number one. You're going to the spring with, I'm going to put quotes around it, a 4-horse race. I really think it's probably just a 3. You have Hank Brown, you have Walker White, you have Holden Geriner, and of course you have Payton Thorne, all battling out for that starting job. Well, here's the issue with those 4 battling it out. There's only one starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And Payton Thorne did not have the best ending of a season. The Music City Bowl was just an abysmal look for all of the quarterbacks outside of Hank Brown. But honestly, going into this spring, you have every opportunity to keep your job. Every opportunity is on the table. You're going to get those first team reps. You're going to be the guy going into that first spring practice. It's not going to be Holden. Holden will be the number 2 guy. And then Walker and Hank are going to be splitting with the third team. It is completely up to Payton Thorne on whether or not that job will remain his in week 2 of the spring. This is not a spring battle. This is a week by week, day by day, practice by practice battle for Payton Thorne. And all he has to gain from this is keeping his job. But let's say Walker White, who's been getting a lot of praise from media and coaches alike. Walker White could come in this room right away and start as a true freshman. Is it likely to happen? Probably not. Holden Geriner has got nothing but praise from the coaching staff all of last season. He could easily just step right over. He's not that far behind Thorne, in my opinion. And then Hank Brown just might emerge as people call him, the baby goat out of nowhere and just steal the job from everybody. Payton Thorne has, and this is kind of poetic that we talk about the rooms that are surrounding him. It's up to him to make sure that those rooms actually step up where they need to as well, because Payton Thorne was known to hold on to the ball for too long, take sacks. He's known to make errant passes, throw interceptions. If Payton Thorne's not careful, he'll lose his job, and also if he's not careful, he'll cost his team.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And my last little closing statement on this is, to your point, Dylan, there are 4 guys in this race. And folks, people can tell you all they want that this is not a quarterback battle. It is. I understand, and I completely get the concept of making sure that is the quietest narrative you possibly can make it, because it is a giant distraction. Look at no further than last year. All it was a damn distraction all spring, not knowing who's going to play quarterback for Auburn in 2023-24. Obviously wound up being Thorne with a mix of Ashford and, but all it was a giant distraction. And I understand that, but also we need to understand that job's not a given. I really don't care what Hugh Freeze says right now. I don't buy it until the fall comes around and we see it until Tommy's leather. I'm not calling Hugh a liar. I'm just saying there's coach speak. They're synonymous sometimes, but like there's such thing as coach speak. This thing is wide open. Maybe not wide open, but that door's three quarters open. It's not just cracked. And someone's got to step up, and leadership's going to have a lot to do with that. If you've got guys on a level playing field, it's going to fall down to who's going to be the biggest leader of this team. So, like you said, Dylan, he's got everything to lose, and I hate being this way because you don't want to be in this spot. Everything to lose and damn near nothing to gain. So it's a delicate world for Payton Thorne, and we will continue to give you guys updates as we're hearing things from inside once things get the ball rolling, metaphorically, for Auburn football in spring practice. For that will wrap up our football discussion about who has the most to prove coming into the 24 spring practice season as we creep slowly toward, believe it or not, these words coming out of my mouth, toward A-Day, as we creep in that direction, which does not feel like it should be this close, but it kind of is, where it's now getting on our radar.
April 6th.
April 6th. I mean, like, that feels like forever away, but like in our world, it does not. So that's creeping up quickly. We're going to wrap that up, and we're going to transition over here to Auburn basketball. But before we do so, I want to remind everybody, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell, drop your feedback. Give us your top 3 guys that could gain the most or need to perform the most in Auburn spring practices, and give us your feedback on anything we're about to talk about, whether that be Auburn basketball, softball, women's basketball, baseball, the whole works, the 9 yards. If you guys have not already subbed to the channel, please do. It's the number one way you guys can support us. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a dime. If you're not listening on the YouTube stream, totally cool. Thank you guys for hanging out with us on your streaming platform of choice. Just make sure you give us 5 stars and a thumbs up, whatever the highest rating is on that streaming platform. Share the show with a friend so we can continue to grow. Looper Nation, you guys are the best in the world. We appreciate you. If you want to support the show in ways beyond just subscribing, if you feel like really supporting some creators here, we really appreciate that. Head over to thewarreport.com, pick your very own College Loop War Report Podcast Network co-branded Feel and Lippy t-shirt. Comes in 5 different colorways, most comfortable shirt you will ever own in your entire life. Dylan's got it up on the screen right now if you're watching the YouTube stream, and you can grab that link from the description in any of our shows. You don't have to type it in the search bar. We'll just bring you right to it. Once you pick up your shirt, make sure you use hashtag Feel and Lippy. That's that feeling without the G, and post it on social media. Whatever platform makes you the happiest, just tag us in it. Use hashtag Feeling Lippy, feeling without the G, and we'll throw it up on the next stream show, whatever that may be, whatever that timeline looks like. Thank you guys for your continual love and support. So much love to you guys. Real talk, y'all are the best. Shout out Dylan for rocking the show solo on Tuesday. By the way, I am in the middle of Hell Week at work, so Dylan, I wanted you to know that I love you and I appreciate you for that, and for all you guys for your continual love and support, and giving us the encouragement and sometimes the hate to continue to go. Our haters, our motivators. Anyways, so let's roll into Auburn men's basketball. And I mean, I just don't have another word for it. Auburn whooped South Carolina's ass. They defended their home court and the best home court advantage in college basketball to this point. Actually, I saw a fun little tidbit. I think the second best home court advantage in men's basketball this year is Morehead State, which is super fun. Like, that's just known Auburn pipeline school. Known SEC pipeline school and a fun mid-major, but Auburn did everything on paper correct. Now I'm an asshole, so I'm going to nitpick here in a minute. Auburn did everything that you could ask for out of a club in a conference game against a top 25 opponent. Mind you, South Carolina came into this game ranked 11. They will sink like a rock because they were a ticking time bomb waiting to get exposed. I don't think they're a bad club whatsoever. I think they're absolutely a tournament team. They remind me a lot of that 2018, 2019 Auburn team that did make the Final Four run, but I mean, just like kind of scrappy, don't make a ton of sense. Won a lot more games than they were supposed to. You get the picture when I'm getting pulling together here, Dylan. Kind of remind me of that. Auburn shot. I love saying this out loud. This is just so damn near euphoric for me. 61% from the field, 60% from 3, 12 of 20. 12 of 24 of those came from Johni Broome, by the way. Just throwing that out there. And then shot 89.5 from the free throw line. I mean, you really can't ask for a whole lot more than that, other than one of your starters not scoring a single bucket. But welcome to the Chris Moore show. He didn't. I'm not nitpicking. It's just kind of the way that it is. Auburn did everything right and large, Dylan. I'm going to let you give your feedback. I've got my bullet point list. It's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster ride. I promise it ends on a high note because this is actually a giant, enormous Q1 win. And actually, Auburn fans, just so you know, you can root for Carolina to lose one more game just to make things a little bit safer in the conference, but you need them to win a lot coming down the stretch because you need this one to stay a Q1 in the worst way possible, because this is a Q1 that you can look on your resume and say this is why they should be a top 4, top 8, top 12 seed. Like, this is a resume builder. Dylan, I'm going to let you give your feedback, and then I'm going to roll.
Yeah, and that 60% from the 3-point line is just such a gorgeous thing to look at. I might frame like the
this
box score. Yeah, I might just frame that somewhere. Johni Broome shooting 4 for 5. Jalen Williams shooting 5 for 7. I mean, those two are your money makers. Whenever those two are playing on point, this is why people agree that Auburn is one of the top teams in the country that people should be afraid to play, especially Neville Arena. But sadly, you cannot fold up Neville Arena and bring it wherever you're going that following week. this, and I'll get a little negative. It is an issue to look at Auburn week by week and seeing the games that they play away. You don't get this level of play. You
Sure.
get a very, very, very watered down version of this Auburn basketball team. You don't get Jalen Williams and Johni Broome lighting up the box scores. You don't get Chad Baker-Mazara stepping up in a huge way like you do. You don't get smart shots from KD Johnson. It's a weird thing to watch happen because we watch it happen every single time this team plays. They walk in Neville Arena and they blow someone out of the water, and then they go into the airplane hangar. They go into Mississippi State. They go into North Dakota against Baylor. Gainesville. I think about that game the same way as me, Steve. I don't like talking about that game. And App State. You watch that team, and you're like, who are these guys? Is this the same team? This is not the same team. This is not who I watched play last night or 2 nights ago. This is not who I watched play. And I'm still waiting for some guys to step up, but if this team can, I tweeted about this, and just the only thing I can think of, encapsulate how they feel playing every single home game and keep that motivation throughout the rest of the season. There's no team in the SEC that can beat this team.
There's no team in the country that could beat this team.
Exactly. This is a national championship caliber team when they are playing like they do in Neville Arena. So bottle it up. Get some Michael's secret stuff and go into away games like this. But yeah, this is just a huge win. 40 points is about as huge of a win as you could possibly ask for. But very impressive win. But it's so downplayed by the fact that, and I see is that your notes right there?
I got a few takeaways.
And it's just so hard for me to look at this game and be so happy and so excited about the future of what this team is going to have to go through the next couple of weeks without the fact that Florida game,
Sure.
Despite the fact that Florida was playing lights out and teams are just bad on the road this year for whatever reason, but that game was just that bad.
Almost like it's hard to play on the road in college basketball.
Yeah, especially with Knoxville coming up very soon.
Yeah, and you actually kind of took some words out of my mouth here in a little bit, and at the end of my spiel, I'm going to be quick. First and foremost, Auburn started out slow. Knock it off. I don't even know how to begin there. Yes, you wound up blowing South Carolina out of the water, but you looked pretty atrocious in the first 2-3. And look, that can slide at home. You go on the road, and you're going to get burned a lot. Just look at UF. You don't have to look much further. Johni Broome was bad at the beginning of this game, guys. Like he was really bad. And yes, he turned it on. He absolutely hit his stride about halfway through the first half and went for 21. Great. If he's not horrid the first 3 minutes, he drops 30. I'm not joking. This is a guy that I'm nitpicking here. Johni Broome's a first-round draft pick. He's an NBA player. I don't want anybody to lose sight of that. But you got to play not 40 minutes. You got to play your entire time on the floor. I'll use a metaphorical 40 minutes, right? Your metaphorical 40 minutes of ball. And he's the kind of guy that you need to be on anytime he's on the court. Because if not, you're losing your biggest weapon, your best player. But did hit his stride. That came together. I had a note. Welcome back, Jalen Williams. This is what you can look like when you're actually locked into a game and not taking errant shots. Those are verbatim what I wrote. Man-to-man was a mess to look at in the first half. South Carolina just ran some pretty basic switches and some off-ball switches, and you had the most wacky matchups you've ever seen. I didn't exactly understand it, but Auburn was able to recover. And also when Carolina started throwing zone at this Auburn team, good luck. Anyways, 1-3-1, not going to work when you got a team that's got two dudes and Jalen Williams and Johni Broome that can just go around you or shoot over you, and they really don't care. But the man-to-man was tough, and the in-game adjustments were good about that, especially after halftime, and the man-to-man really didn't matter. Objectively bad playing the paint from Dylan Cardwell. Like on the defensive end of the ball of the floor, for whatever reason, Dylan was horrid at letting guys get behind him. And I'm folks, I know I'm nitpicking here, but this is the things you break down when you're talking about a team that you think you can win a national championship with. This is just a point that I need to identify. Dylan Cardwell has regressed under the rim, and he's actually kind of, what's the word, regressing to the mean on the offensive end of the floor. He's regressed to the mean, which his mean is good on the offensive end of the floor when he's getting good lobs, making good plays on the high ball screen, on the pick and roll, on the dish and drive, whatever that may be. But you got to get better under the rim. When Johni Broome comes in, it's a different ballgame. People respect him on a different level. And if you don't respect him, he's going to hack you and then make you respect him, which is honestly, Dylan Cardwell takes some notes. Like, that is how you get the job done. Also, Cardwell got hit with a really shitty flagrant, but I digress. I said objectively bad playing the paint, but Dylan Cardwell did, like I said, return back to the mean, and he was fine. Something that I don't think we talked about enough this year, the fast hands on defense were nuts tonight. This team not just getting back, but forcing the ball not always into turnovers, but popping the ball loose and making South Carolina return to their set and just eating time off the shot clock and then forcing them into turnovers. I mean, I think they forced Carolina into 11 turnovers tonight. Yeah, they did. Right? 10 turnovers? 13. Sorry. 13 turnovers tonight. And it's just fast hands on defense. It's keeping your guy in front of you, keeping that metaphorical belt buckle pointed toward them. And I think that Auburn did a great job. That's something you want to see more of. Katie Johnson's great at it, but it was contagious tonight. Johni Broome got active. Jalen Williams got active. Hell, Shady Johnson got active. And CBM's always active, so I don't need to go there. But the fast hands were great. Shot selection, guys. It got so much better as the game went on. And it's not just because Auburn was playing with a comfortable lead. Like, the shot selection was truly better. And I actually wrote this. This is my exact note. Shot selection got so much better as the game went on, but you've got to be smart for 40 plus minutes. That's great. My next note was 3-pointers go Burr. That is exactly what I wrote. This group just the basket must have been 15 feet wide in their vision. One eye for Jalen Williams, by the way, who lost the contact, which was, I was like, oh my God, is Jalen hurt? And then he gets up and he's like looking for a contact. I was like, never mind, I can live with that. Points off turnovers. This is awesome. I like when this happens. At one point, there was 19 points on like 9 turnovers. I was like, this is how you're supposed to convert. This is how you're not supposed to make dumb alley-oop, cross-court, stupid passes. Just go get your set, run your offense. If Auburn can keep doing that, hell, if they did that against Florida, that game was a hell of a lot closer. Just throwing that out there. My 2 other notes. One, that might be the most flagrant fouls in the game, maybe the history of ever. It's totally not, but it felt like it was.
Was it just 2?
There were 4.
There were 4?
There were 4 flagrants. There was one on Dylan. And then there was the back and forth exchange that each got issued to attack.
Oh, okay.
That's flagrant technical. And then there was another one earlier in the game. I think it was
I just remember the one on Dylan and I thought only one got thrown ever.
Maybe they decided to make it a common foul, but it felt like every time you turned around, there was like a play being reviewed for a technical. So that was super cool. My last closing note: you can't play every game at home. I wish you could take this one and figure out what you did right, X's and O's wise. Dylan, I know you mentioned the whole bottle up your energy at Neville Arena thing, and I get that. And if you can figure that out, please give me your secret remedy. I will give it to the team, and I will make sure it gets to the right people. But you can't play everyone at home. But you learned a lot today. You're capable of beating the absolute brakes off of teams like that are really good teams. I don't think South Carolina's a really good team, but I digress. You're capable of just absolutely just thumping teams like this. Why are you straying from what your brand of basketball is? Because today Auburn played Auburn basketball, and you see what happens. You do that, you hang 101. You let your walk-ons play for 2.5 minutes. That is what Auburn basketball looks like this year, and that's what they're capable of. Anyways, that being said, going to run through a quick preview, Dylan, and we'll give our score predictions for Kentucky. I'm not going to take too long. I'm really honestly just going to highlight one player. Maybe 2. Rob Dillingham deserves some flowers too. But Antonio Reeves is the name of the game on Saturday night. College game day. Kentucky traveling to Neville Arena. And we've got a star-studded showdown. It's star-studded whether or not you want to call Auburn a team of NBA guys. I don't necessarily know they are, but a really, really, really exciting clash of 2 teams that can go relatively deep. Auburn deeper than Kentucky, but it runs through Antonio Reeves. This young man, 19-4, a game averaging, he plays 31.5 minutes. I mean, dude can play the entire game if you want him to. Shooting 88% from free throw, 43-7 from the 3-point range, and knocking down almost 50% of his field goals. Antonio Reeves is a problem, and when we've known this, he's in that conversation with the Mark Sears of the world about who's going to be your SEC Player of the Year. Which, by the way, Johni Broome should be in that conversation. I digress.
He is the conversation.
He should be the conversation, but that is my orange and blue glasses. I think that if you look for an MVP, he is the most valuable player on his team. Like, show me someone better. Truthfully. But this is going to be a really what it's going to come down to, Dylan. is Auburn making sure that they're playing to their game. Kentucky's really not been as flashy as we thought they would be this year. They've come out flat a lot. They've come out flat at home a lot, which so is Auburn. But I digress. They've not been particularly amazing on the road, and they probably should have beaten Tennessee a week and a half ago and just didn't have late game composure. Auburn's got the opportunity here to do something really special and make things really, really interesting in the SEC. Can the Tigers get it done on Saturday, Dylan?
I think they can. I think with this being, again, it's in Neville Arena. It's the home field advantage in college basketball. You don't get. I don't think there's very many other teams that have this level of play at home and then go elsewhere and just completely look like a.
I think there's more than you think there is.
There definitely is, but I'm also very solely much. Exactly. I'm very solely in the Auburn sphere of things.
I have a friend that's a really diehard Creighton fan, and he wants to blow his brains out every time they have to play on the road. And Creighton's a really good team this year.
I had Creighton in my Final Four last year, so I can't.
I don't know that they're that good this year.
They're not that good this year. I'm very well known of that. But I mean, I look at this. This feels like the second coming of Alabama back in the Neville Arena, because Antonio Reeves, that we talk about, Mark Sears a lot. It's the same game plan. You're playing against a veteran guard who can shoot the lights out from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
If you put a base level like that, it's the same scheme level.
You're playing against a talented guard. Mark Sears not a veteran.
Is he not? Has he not been there for like a few years?
I think Sears. Hold on.
In basketball rules, you're a veteran as soon as you're there after more than 1 year. So.
Mark Sears is a senior. Okay, I swear I didn't think Sears has been there that long.
Yeah, he's been there for a hot minute.
Okay, never mind. Your parallel draw is completely correct, and I will shut up. Saturday's game is presented by Cook's Pest Control, by the way. Just do with that as you will.
Awesome. This game's also at 5:00 p.m., so you're going to get hopefully some well-rested Pearlville attendees.
Or ultra sleep deprived.
Or ultra sleep deprived, which is they're going to smell the exact same, but one of them is going to be a little more rowdy and a little less likely for Kentucky to leave the arena alive if they win. At least from our point of view of what we know of Pearlville. It's definitely changed. It's more civilized than it was back in our day.
What the hell is that about?
they got skyscrapers and transportation and food delivery.
We were having these
services.
fax machines when we were there.
We had to call Tarr's girlfriend, Abby, to go get some cookout so he could eat.
Right.
Wake up at 5 a.m, sleep deprived.
Also, shout out Abby. 5 years. We've been dating for 5 years as of last Friday. I've been on the show since then. Shout out Abby.
1.5 years for me and Lauren.
That's big time. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, but so this is a game I definitely Auburn can win. This is not a game that I can confidently say Auburn is going to put up 100 points or win by 40 in. But I'm looking at a nice. I'll give the same deficit I did for this game. I'm going to say Auburn probably. I'm going to say 75-70.
I like Auburn to get in the 80s. I like 83, 74. I really do. I think Auburn pulls away late. I think it's going to be a really fun one. I think it's going to be back and forth. Bite your nails. Make sure you've got like a whole fresh pack of gum that you're going to be chewing nervously. Especially Jack Hart. I'm looking at you, dude. I know you got to get a new pack of flavorless gum for that because that guy can eat some gum, man. He'll get stressed out and it's just nuts. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun one. I think Auburn wins this one. I really do because, well, if you don't, you're shit out of luck in terms of winning the SEC regular season. Like, let's just be honest. Because you win on Saturday and you get an awesome reward. You get to go play a feisty team in UGA in Athens, which should scare the ever-living crap out of everyone here, by the way. And then if you win that one, your big prize is congrats. You get to go to Knoxville and probably get your ass handed to you. And I'm not saying that Auburn's not capable of beating Tennessee. I just don't think they're capable of beating Tennessee on the road. But Auburn beating Tennessee on the road after losing to like Florida and Mississippi State on the road would just make sense because Auburn. Then again, you know, that's a long ways in the future, being 3 games. But I am already looking, Dylan, at the point of I've been counting games a lot since like game 2 of the SEC season. This one's it's top heavy now. South Carolina's going to lose again. Auburn's probably going to lose again. It's can you survive 2 losses? And Alabama's, the end of their season is not particularly favorable. They've got a handful that someone's going to slip up and beat Alabama again.
Yeah, they have Texas A&M, they have Florida, Kentucky,
Yep.
at Kentucky, at Ole Miss,
Right.
Tennessee, at Florida,
Right.
and then Arkansas.
Right. They don't have a fun end of the season whatsoever. And Auburn's gets easier. If they can get through Tennessee, you've got Mississippi State at home, Missouri on the road, and then Georgia at home. And I like you to win all of those. Actually, looking down the stretch, I've only got one game that I think that Auburn loses. And I think that is Tennessee on the road. But you've got to be able to survive the rest of them. Tennessee's already got that third loss. You like to think Alabama's going to get that third loss. South Carolina's already got their third loss. So now you're just sitting here waiting on and playing the tiebreaker game. That game in Knoxville might wind up being a regular season championship 3 games before the season ends. That is all. It's completely on the table. Like that one could wind up deciding it. So you got to make sure you capitalize here. You beat Kentucky. Your resume looks really good going into March. I never feel good about the SEC tournament. I don't think I ever will again. So you've got to, Auburn's got to show me something other than just whatever the hell we watched the past 3 years. And
it was a fun trip to Tampa, regardless.
Beach. Never before seen picture of us on a beach. Anyways, yeah, that was great. Matter of fact, in honor of if Auburn wins one game in the SEC tournament, I will put the Snapchat story on this stream of Dylan taking a photo of the beach, and I'm taking a photo of Dylan taking a photo of the beach. It's a beachception picture. It's amazing.
Also, the picture of us trying to get a flip-flop tan on Colin's back while he was taking us.
Oh, that's a really good one. That's a great one. Yeah, we should totally bring that up. All this to say, both of us picking Auburn to beat Kentucky on Saturday. I'm not stressed about the game, but like I'm not as worked up about this one yet, at least, as I was about Alabama Part 2. I was more worked up about Alabama Part 2 because you're avoiding the sweep than I was Part 1, but I was worked up then too. I am infinitely more concerned about that Tennessee team, infinitely. So we'll have to see where that's at. And if Auburn beats Kentucky, I'm going to feel a hell of a lot better and probably care a little bit less. When Auburn loses in Knoxville, sorry guys, I'm being pessimist. I just don't. I got to see it happen. I don't believe in it.
I'm mentally preparing myself for another like 42-40 final score Auburn Tennessee game in Knoxville.
Oh, I forgot about that. So I was there. Like, what the hell?
I'm also preparing myself for Antonio Reeves walks in Neville Arena and he stubs his toe on the goalpost and can't play the game. And then Kentucky fans this game doesn't count because Reeves didn't play.
Yeah, well, that's just the Kentucky way. Speaking of Kentucky,
memes.
Auburn women's basketball, absolutely just put on a clinic in Como, and I know you covered that already, but they get to play a Kentucky team that could not be headed in a more different direction than their men's team. It is weird for me and hard for me to wrap my brain around the concept of a Kentucky team not being good at basketball. Then again, Louisville's been doing it pretty well for the past couple of years, but it's hard for me to wrap my brain around this. UK women's basketball is just not good. They're 12th in the SEC. Your leading scorers dropping 14-6. And Aja Petty, and then Maddie Scher is going to has 13-4, and then the rest is just a. And the worst part for them, I think, is that they rotate out 9 players. Like that's the scariest part for them. To be completely candid, I imagine it's a lot of new places and new faces, considering I know Robin Benson, former Auburn legend, by the way, departed this past offseason, and you've got a significantly different looking team. But the way Auburn's been playing right now, like, this is the most awesome middle of the pack experience I've ever lived as an Auburn fan, and I'm okay with that. This rebuild is actually working. You've got momentum. Let your guards cook. Let your big men do what they do down low and stick to your game plan. Auburn would have to shoot the ball abysmally and not play their brand of basketball at all. And yes, Bruce, if you're listening, I do mean this on men's and women. I harp on the women's team just like I do your team. But I don't see a world where Auburn doesn't take care of business. Like, sure, you can lose any game in the SEC. Like, it's you can lose any game you play. That's why we play it. I don't know why Auburn would not win this game. Barring, just coming out flat, which we've seen them do. And that's part of the roller coaster of a rebuild, right? But you're starting to win the games you're supposed to win on a routine basis. And this is one of those. And we're getting into that category where it's like you're almost expecting this now, which is unbelievable given what the program when Coach Jay took over. So I really like Auburn to take down Kentucky, and Kentucky didn't like shoot the ball well, like 40% from the field, which is fine, but like they shoot 29% from three, and they're like 63.5% from the free throw line. Hell, just foul them. I'm not joking. Like if they're going to the rack and anybody's on a roll, like their highest, they have like two players that are bringing up your average, and only one of them plays significant minutes, and that's Maddie Scher. She's shooting 79.8, and after that, your highest scorer in Asia Petty is 53.4 from the free throw line. Like it literally does not matter. Foul them. As petty as that sounds, like just foul them. Who cares? Make them earn it. Rotate out. Believe in the fact that you've got 8 or 9 that can outlast anybody else. Right? Thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, this is a Coach J team that has been built by the defense and has been helped by the offense. I've heard several analysts talk about how Coach J has coached up this team, and Auburn might be the best defensive team in the SEC. It's just they just have some nights where the ball just does not go in the hoop like they want it to.
That's basketball.
And yeah, we play the sport to win the games and whatnot, all the other coach speak items. But this is a huge game going forward because after this, you have at Alabama, you have at LSU, you have the Aisha Coulibaly return to Neville Arena, and then you have Mississippi State in Florida. This Auburn team has the opportunity to get hot right in time for the SEC tournament and win some games in the SEC tournament and officially get put in the March Madness and in some tournament because this is not. I honestly believe that if this Auburn team gets put in the NIT, they're winning it all.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I strongly believe that.
No, I think I think you're cooking there. I think you're right.
And it is worth mentioning for everybody watching this, if you're deciding on going to the game's at 6 tonight as the show is coming out. Coach J, I'm reading an official tweet from Mike G. Coach J addressed the crowd last night at Neville Arena. 3,500 fans tomorrow night will push Auburn to a new season attendance record. And for every student in attendance, Coach J will donate $3 to the K-Val Cancer Fund.
Pack that SOB out.
Sell it out.
No, it's literally a win-win. Why did you not go?
And believe me, we've seen, it's been proven. If there are 6,000 or more fans,
Auburn's undefeated.
So pack out the house every night. You know, even if it just takes you parking a cardboard cutout there, like in COVID times, like just fill the stands up because this team definitely deserves it. Because of all the teams in the rebuild right now, this has been the most positive incline that we've seen out of a rebuild.
It's the fastest.
Exactly.
It's remarkable. Like I'm ready for Auburn to make the tournament this year, and then next year go on a little run in the tournament, and I'm gonna give my presentation on the parallels between the Bruce Pearl rebuild and the Johnny Harris rebuild. Guys, I'm not overreacting. I think Auburn's going to be right there, and with the LSUs and the South Carolinas of the SEC, and I think it's gonna be sooner than we think. Coach Jay had the remedy and had the recipe, and she's only getting better. I cannot wait for year 4. Like this year's so much fun, and I'm very, very excited for them. And I want to see HSG have a phenomenal ending to her senior year. Go do something goofy like win the SEC tournament. Like that'd be sick. Like win games you're not supposed to win. Just go have a great time doing it and continue to rebuild the program. It's all going to help. Next year, I really think this team's going to be so fun, so damn fun. So I digress. We'll continue on with our rundown, but once again, Dylan and I predicting a clean sweep of the University of Kentucky Wildcats this weekend between Auburn men's and women's basketball. Let's rotate over. We're talking Diamond Talk now, Dylan. It's awesome. It's time for Auburn baseball as the Tigers will play host to Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Tennessee's ETSU. Sorry, that's my SoCon baseball commentating coming out. Eastern Kentucky this weekend. And we've got a starter rotation. And it's going to be Chase Allison on Friday, Joseph Gonzalez on Saturday, and then Carson Myers, the transfer out of Bowling Green.
Yeah.
UAB. He's from Bowling Green. I'm sorry. I'll get that mixed up for the rest of forever. The Carson Myers, the UAB transfer on Sunday. Dylan, my instant reactions, I love this. Where are you at? I've got a breakdown, but I'll let you go ahead and cook.
I think you get the perfect trifecta that you want to see. You get Chase Alsop, who had a very good season last year. You see the return of Jogo on an important Saturday game, and of course, you guys see what the transfer is going to do. And Carson Myers, your guy that you said is going to be the best newcomer for this team. So I know you're going to be very excited if he pans out very well, because I'm sure the rest of the fans will be as well if he pans out very nicely. But you're getting a whole bag of pitching you want to see, because of course they're going to throw in some John Armstrong, and we love the sidearm.
That's right.
Because it's hard not to, and of course the Drew Nelsons of the world, and I'm forgetting Craig Olson's son. I'm forgetting his first name is Ryan. You're going to get all those guys, but this starting lineup, I think, is the exact one you want to see going into this first weekend series.
I love this rotation for kind of a lot of reasons. Chase also had a really, really bad season of starting last year. He had a good season out of the bullpen. He had 8 starts last year after not starting a single game in 2022 and being a bullpen arm, which is fine. He pitched to a 5.47 last year because he kind of got lit up as a starter, and that's okay. It's fine. I'm glad that he's had the offseason to work on conditioning more so he can put in more innings and actually get starting rotational minutes, or not in minutes, but innings. And he pitched to a 5.47 last year. He's got a career ERA of 4.69. He had a 3.38 out of the bullpen as a freshman. I'm okay with this. Like, I'm really, really excited to see his development year to year in terms of where he can be in terms of starting. Like, we knew that this was going to be the goal for Chase also by the time he got out of Auburn and by the time he leaves, which should not be after this year. Maybe, hopefully he's lights out and is that good. But his long-term goal is to be a starting guy in the bigs. And for him to take that next step, it's got to start with being a routine starting guy right now. Well, now you've been given the opportunity to be Friday night. Friday night's huge. We kind of all figured that'd be Jogo. And who's to say? We're going to tinker with this rotation throughout the year. You're going to see different mixing and matching, but I really like where you're at right now. You got also getting the opportunity to bounce back, and then you've got Jogo. I mean, there's only one guy in this rotation that pitched to an 0.00 last year, and don't worry about the fact he only threw 5 innings. But Joseph Gonzalez, I don't know if you've ever gone back and looked at this, Dylan, but his first year, his freshman year in 2021, he pitched to a 6.17 as a starter, and only started 5 games, mostly out of the pen. I think he only threw what was it? How many innings? Innings pitched 42-1. So like not even a ton of opportunities. Then you come back and you get to start as a sophomore, and you pitch to a 3.22 as a sophomore. Folks, pitching to a 3.22 in collegiate baseball when the other team gets to use aluminum bats is unbelievable. It is unreal because kids can poke the ball out of the yard kind of a lot easier because there's a lot more pop off those aluminum bats. Jogo's going to come back off rehab. There's going to take some patience. It's going to take some patience, and he's not going to be the Joe. Shit, if he is, and good for him. But like, he's probably not going to be the guy that you're ready to see come March, come April, June, like later in the season, or the thick of SEC play. But he's going to be really, really good, and he's got the opportunity to bounce back. And then you bring in Carson Myers. Let's not forget this young man was a 3.52 in the Conference USA as a sophomore. And then freshman year he had 25 relief appearances and struck out 28 batters in 28.1 innings. This guy had 71 innings of work last year and pitched with 3.52 as a sophomore. Conference USA skill level a little bit different. I understand that. Competition a little bit different, but you'd like to think that he can progress accordingly and proportionally. I really, really like this starting 3, Dylan, and the more I look at it, I spent kind of a lot of time looking into this today. Because I was hoping Myers was going to get the Saturday opportunity. I was kind of thinking you'd go Jogo, Myers also, but the more I kind of put myself in the Butch Thompson mindset, the more this makes perfect sense for the first series of the season. I love this. Offense is going to come and it'll happen, but it's got to start on the pit on the defensive end. I'm really pumped.
Yeah, I am too, and I'm also be very pumped to see the guy who's going to be catching all these pitches as well, and Mike Irish, who I think has officially been cemented as the catcher.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a weird change of pace to see a catcher who I can trust to hit the ball.
Yeah. Hey, look, Nate LaRue, shout him out, bro. Shout out.
I love Nate LaRue. He was probably the most consistent batter last season. Towards the end of it, whenever what was it? He was right eye.
He was right-handed,
left eye.
He was He like what was it? He's like right eye dominant, but it swings from the right side of the plate, so you're trying to see over your nose or some crazy shit like Lindsey Crosby was telling. I don't know, man, but like I'm glad he pieced it together. He was one of the best defensive catchers in the history of Auburn baseball, excluding David Ross. I'm not naive to that, but like that guy was lights out. And now having Ike Irish behind the dish, it's good. That means you have a routine guy that can build his relationships with his pitchers. That's so important. A guy that can read his guys, and we're not kind of doing it by platoon anymore, which is important because you've got to have the anchor behind the dish. This is coming from a washed up catcher, I understand, but you really want your catcher to be your field general, and he's got to be able to know what his strengths and weaknesses are, not just physical but mental of his guys. So it's very, very important, and I think that's a tremendous help. Let's talk about the other side of the diamond here, Dylan. Auburn softball eked one out over Wichita in the midseason. I put in parentheses, Auburn might stink. I don't know yet. Dylan Cook.
Yeah, I'm not going to panic too much right now. I mean, this is an Auburn softball season that's already been riddled with weather issues. During the Tiger Invitational, they had to cancel 2 games and call one early, so Auburn now has a 1-1-1 record because of rain.
Gross. That's so
gross. Now they have a 2-1-1 record because of the game against Wichita, which this game was also delayed for about an hour because of rain in Mexico. But they were able to get it done. They did have a pretty substantial lead. They were up 6-1 going into the 7th inning. Wichita State came in the bottom of the 7th and then got 5 very quick runs. Auburn was able to shut it down and then light it up at the top of the 8th. Sorry, with the Rose Roach RBI and a Nelia Peralta ribby as well. So got the job done. I'm a little hesitant to start saying that this team is going to do less than expected. That Virginia Tech team is very good, and they have one of the top pitchers in the country that was going head to head against
that game, by the way.
Yeah, they won the first game.
No, they won the second game.
It was tied. They're very upset about it. They're very mad that it got called because they were on a little bit of a run and were probably
you would have been equally as heated if you were in their shoes.
Yes, I would, but I'm not going to admit that live. I'm going to just say it was a tie, 1-1-1 record that Virginia Tech also has. But you're going into UC Davis today at noon. You have Utah, which is a top 15 team, at 2:30. And then you have Friday off and then get to welcome back Lindsey Garcia and the Clemson Tigers on Saturday. So it's going to be a fun weekend. Sadly, these games are not going to be on ESPN or any normal streaming service. I think they're on Flow Sports. I think that's where I saw they were being watched. So you can also just follow Auburn softball on Twitter as well and get the updates.
I'm not condoning bootlegging things, but if you can do anything to avoid getting a Flow Sports subscription, they're never going to sponsor us, Dylan. I can drag them through the mud. They suck. They're so bad. And even if they were to come and sponsor us, it would take a large bag for me to act like I liked their service. So, yeah, no, that's disappointing. If you're looking for other things to do this weekend to cheer on Auburn athletics, Auburn Gymnastics does travel to Baton Rouge on Friday evening to take on Livy Dunn and the LSU Tigers.
And Haley Bryant.
And the LSU Tigers. Known TikTok sensational TikTok sensation gymnastics team in Friday Night Heights, but a talented team in LSU and a good test for Auburn on the road to be able to go out and continue to progress the way that they have been to this point this year, right, Dylan?
Yeah, it's another meet that I look very forward to watching. Auburn Gymnastics did numbies against Alabama last week, and I cannot stress enough how thankful I was to be able to watch that happen in person, and then show my girlfriend how to do reverse rammer jammer.
Reverse rammer jammer feeds families.
It's so fun. But yeah, this is gonna be a fun meet. Cassie Stevens versus Haley Bryant is gonna be an all-time
cinema.
It's going to be absolute cinema, if you will, because I think Haley Bryant just hit the I forgot what it's called, but she's gotten a 10 on every single rotation this season. Like that's she's gotten it's wild, and I don't want to diss the women's sports at all, but I do think Haley Bryant deserves a lot more love for the LSU gymnastics team, and she could be up there right there with Livy Dunn. Just put them both on the pedestal. because Haley Bryant is just absolutely ridiculous.
Haley Bryant's giving you results. Livy Dunn's giving you clicks. Put them together.
Exactly. You do their full routine at the same time. That way you get all the views and the people are watching Haley Bryant absolutely kill it. But I say that to say Livy Dunn is also an All-American. So I'm speaking out of my butt here.
Dunn is also, like, regardless of the TikTok cringe, like, she is extremely talented.
Every single one of those girls are absolutely ridiculous.
If you're not talented, you're not competing in the SEC.
If you're not watching gymnastics, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
it's so fun to watch.
Missing out on Friday Night Heights, you suck because they are electric. That's all we've got for the College Loop podcast today. I'm going to wrap it up here, Dylan, and remind everybody that if they want to continue to support the channel, the number one way you can do so is by hitting the subscribe button, liking this video, and ringing the bell so you can stay up to date. Wow, I just smacked my ring against my desk. That was loud. So you can stay up to date with everything going on right here at the College Loop podcast. Make sure to give us a comment, drop your thoughts on anything. You guys love to tell us when we're wrong, and I'd love to read them. So it's a fun afternoon pastime for me. The day after the show comes out, I do read the comments. We do. So when you say mean things, just know that if you're trying to hurt our feelings, you don't, but I do read them. And my mom reads them too. So keep that in mind. Just so you guys know, my mom has called some of you an asshole before. Fun fact. And my mom doesn't curse very often. So that's true. Anyways, I digress. If you guys are not watching on the YouTube stream, make sure you hit give us a thumbs up or a 5-star, whatever the highest review is on your streaming platform of choice. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us in whatever capacity you guys choose to do so, whatever works best in your schedule. If you want to support the show in ways beyond just giving us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and ringing the bell, you can head over to thewarreport.com. Pick up your very own College Loop War Report Podcast Network co-branded Feelin' Lippy t-shirt. Only $25, 5 different colorways. Link is in the description. Use hashtag Feelin' Lippy. That's feeling without the G on whatever social media platform makes you the happiest. Tag us in it, and we will throw it up on the next show, the next stream, whatever works out better in our schedule and or your schedule. Thank you guys for your continual love and support. I'm Harrison Tarr, @Harrison on the Bird app, and @Harrison Tarr on Instagram. If you guys want to come hang out, give me your good takes, your bad takes, everything in between. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Hope you guys all watched the Waste Management this past weekend. It was way more entertaining than the Super Bowl, except for Usher, who was awesome. I've not been on since the Super Bowl. Atlanta won the Super Bowl. Not the Falcons. That will literally never happen. But Atlanta did win the Super Bowl. Dylan, thank you for entertaining me, and let's get out here.
Yeah. Also, I just want to. My face is. I have a very puzzled look on my face because there are already students out for Pearlville already.
Lunatics. And I love it. That's the culture. That's the culture.
Dude, it is 3 days away. The tents are already out. It's already crazy. Beginning of a civilization. That gets treated way better than our civilization did back.
No kidding.
Back 3 years ago. But yeah, that's wild. That's also awesome. So I love to see that. I'm Dylan A-Boy Tank on Twitter. That's @YABOI the Tank. Also Instagram as well @Dylan Larck @DYLANLARCK. If you need other help, if you need visual aids to spelling that, it's just right there in the orange bubble, my name, and the white one is my Twitter handle. And of course, if you're also going to look for me in the College Loop, that's absolutely everywhere. That's on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, the works. All of those @the College Loop. Visual aid for that. Over there, right above Tar's head and below. And it's right there, down there. And while you're down there, make sure to go ahead and like and comment and subscribe. Leave your thoughts on who do you think has the most approved for Auburn spring practice, and what is your prediction for Auburn, Kentucky, both the women and the men's editions of those games happening tonight and this weekend. But yeah. And also, if you hate seeing our faces, completely understand it. I see how y'all respond to how we look. It's also very funny. There's also audio versions of the show as well on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and of course Amazon Music. And of course, all of that being said, this has been the College Loop Podcast.
Love you guys. Happy late Valentine's Day.